Shalom, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special edition of the Hunting Blind with Dael. And man, I tell you what, the reason why I'm having this special edition here is I've had a lot of friends on Facebook to hit me up here in the past couple of days on a certain problem that's going around, on a certain false teaching that is actually going around, and they're wanting to know the truth on it. So they asked me some questions. So I told them what I'm going to do is I'll look into this and get all the information that I can and make a video on it. But besides doing this video, this coming Thursday, I can't think of the date of Thursday is coming up here, we're going to be doing a special Midrash edition on this very subject. And there's going to be not only myself, but 3-4 other people. And we're going to tackle this very thing. That way we have a witness to this video. This teaching that is going around, it's actually called, let me take off the keys here. It's actually called Nazarenes, or I think it's called the Synagogue of Satan, if I'm not mistaken. And a lot of the questions that I was asked on this was this true? Is everything he's saying? Ladies and gentlemen, no, we'll make it very clear, no, Nazarenes are not the houses or the Synagogue of Hasatan. Okay. Now we have done a video and some teachings on the house, or the house of the Synagogue of Hasatan. We have done a video and we showed clearly who that is and who they are. And so let's get into some of these questions that I was asked, and I wrote the notes down as I was asked them. And it says that the Nazarenes, okay, first of all, it says that Nazarenes can't eat grapes, can't drink wine, can't do this, can't do that. Okay, so we have a problem here. So let's get down into the thing. First of all, let's find out, what is a Nazarene, a true Nazarene? The word Nazarene itself means a branch, or it can mean a watchman, or it can mean followers of the way, which pretty much coincides with the first two. So that is a Nazarene. That is what the definition of a Nazarene is. Okay. Now, not eating grapes, not touching, being around bodies, blah blah. Ladies and gentlemen, that has nothing to do with a Nazarene itself. That actually is part of a Nazarite vow. Now, there is a difference between a Nazarene and a Nazarite vow. Okay, we just showed you what the Nazarene was. Nazarite vows can be found in Numbers chapter 6. Okay, that's what once you take a vow, what it is, you're consecrating yourself to get closer to YAHUWAH, to find answers to things. So you take this vow and you follow it. And you have to follow it precisely, exactly. And if for any reason that you do come in contact with the body, or you accidentally eat grapes or anything after grapes or wine or anything like that, you become unclean for that vow. So, but during that vow, you have to let your hair grow out. So there's a lot of restrictions on what you can and can't do. So here's the thing: when something happens and it makes you unclean to do this vow, you literally have to cut your hair, burn your hair with the offering that you bring forth for that, because there's a lot of things there. It's a very expensive thing to do. So, I think it's set up to, for people who wants to do it, to make sure, hey, this is what's required of you. So make sure that you want to do it. So that is the difference. they're not the same thing. But just because you're a Nazarene doesn't mean you can't drink wine, doesn't mean you can't eat grapes, doesn't mean you can't be around bodies. Well, that's the vow. We're not in a you're not in a vow, and it's kind of hard. You can't do a vow these days like that because there's no altar to go to and do your sacrifices with when this is completed. So that pretty much, I'm thinking, does away with this notion that a Nazarene can't drink wine, can't do this. Okay, that's wrong. You're just like any other person, except for you're the branch, a watchman, or a follower of the way.
It doesn't mean you're from Nazareth.
Doesn't mean you're from Nazareth either. No, exactly. Let's see. Now, one thing that I was told that was used was Judaism 101, which was the Nazarite vow. Yes, Judaism 101 is a good site, but there again, it's showing that just because you're a Nazarene doesn't mean that you're under a Nazarite vow. Okay? Only a Nazarite vow is where these things take place. Let's see. That's so another thing. Let me make sure I got my notes here because there's another thing that was brought up. Okay, like we said, we showed what the Nazarene is. Now it was said that Yeshua was not a Nazarene. Really. Well, he was not born in Nazareth, and just because he came from Nazareth, no, it did not make him a Nazarene. But Isaiah 11:1 makes it clear that he was a Nazarene. For simple fact, it says that he was a branch. He's the branch off of the offshoot of Jesse. Okay? That makes him the ultimate Nazarene, if you ask me. Okay? He's the one that we're to strive to be like. To be just like him, to be the branch off of him. So that's Isaiah 11:1. Also said that there was no Nazarenes in the New Testament. Is this true? It's false. There are Nazarenes in the New Testament, the Brit Hadashah, because Acts 24 with Paul clearly states it's Nazarene. Hebrews 11:26. Even from the David H. Stern's book on Messianic Jewish Manifesto states the very same thing, that he is Nazarene. Okay? So, once again, look at Acts 11:26, and you'll see there for yourself where it says that the whole thing that were Nazarenes. It's
in page 32 of his book, he even says that there is that the word Messianic was not in existence at that time. He also says in page 20 that the original followers of Yeshua were Nazarenes.
So that was page
20 and also page 26.
And I think we're going to try to make this book available.
I don't have the Messianic Jewish Manifesto, but I do have the quotes from it in another book that is called the Nazarene Jewish Manifesto.
Okay. So we have a problem. What we have here is problems because this person that's teaching this, or whoever's teaching this, has no clue. Because evidently there's also a remark about Aramaic being the language of Hasatan, because it comes from the Babylonian. Ladies and gentlemen, if you do not know what Aramaic is, I'm not the language expert here. Wade and Caleb, Nanny, the ones that does my stuff for that are, but from what I understand from them was you had Paleo Hebrew, Aramaic, which is the grandfather to the Hebrew that we have now. So no, is not Hasatan's language. It is actual language that was used and it was actually Hebrew is just called Aramaic. All the things, the word pictures and the things in the Aramaic still goes with the Paleo Hebrew and the modern Hebrew today. So
it's very similar to the modern Hebrew, except that it's looped as opposed to in a block shape. It's basically the exact same thing, just based upon that.
So no, Aramaic is not of the devil. Okay. I'm starting to see the Waters Boys moms popping up here. That's of the devil. Yeah. Okay. It was said that there was not a Nazarene vow in the Brit Hadashah. It never took place in the Brit Hadashah because Yeshua's blood covered the thing. Once again, wrong. Paul himself, with 4 others in Acts, did the vow. But because they came in contact with the dead body, they had to go and reconsecrate themselves. And so that we said was, I think we found that in Acts. I done lost my thing. I think it's Acts 24. Oh no, Acts 18:18 and Acts 21:17 through 26. Once again, to find this, that Paul did a Nazarite vow, Acts 18:18 and Acts 21:17 through 26. You'll find that Paul in the Brit Hadashah did the vow. So whoever said that this was not done in the Brit Hadashah, once again, has no clue what they're talking about. It's
something wrong.
Yeah, something's very wrong here. Yeshua, was a Nazarene. Okay, was Yeshua a Nazarene, or was he under a Nazarene vow? Yeshua was Nazarene by his name. He was the branch. That's what makes him the Nazarene, because he was the branch that was foretold in Isaiah, which we got through talking about. He did not take the vow. The only vow that he took was at the Last Supper, the last meal he had with his disciples, and he said, I will not drink from this cup again until I return. So that's the only place I've seen where he made the vow at there. So Yeshua was not under a Nazarite vow. He did not have to keep his hair long. He was able to drink wine. And I guess that was, for some reason this person, from what I can understand, was saying that if you're a Nazarene, you cannot do none of this. Once again, wrong. The only time you can't do that is under a Nazarene vow, and we cannot do the vows for the simple fact you have to have the temple altar. We do not have the altar in Israel, in the land where it's supposed to be. So we cannot that's why we can't do sacrifices. Based on that same thing there, sacrifices. I think he said that sacrifices did not need to be done anymore. Then why did Paul do the sacrifices? Why was everybody else keeping the sacrifices in Acts? Why were they coming to do things? The only time the sacrifices stopped was in AD 70 when the temple and the word altar was destroyed. Once the altar is destroyed, because that is the only place you're allowed to make sacrifices, is in the land in Israel. Okay? Since it's gone, we can no longer do those sacrifices. Never mind. It's starting to get my thing. I don't understand what's going through these people's heads with teaching this stuff. Because it says Yeshua's blood took away the law of sin and death. Okay, that's what it did. His blood took away that, but it still says we need it covered. Because you go back and you look at what's going to happen during the millennium, why he's here, why he's sitting on the throne as king himself. Guess what? We're still going to be doing sacrifices. This makes it clear Okay, it's made very clear we're still going to be doing sacrifices. Why? He's still the king. So if his blood covered us and everything, why do we have to still do it in the millennium with him sitting on the throne? Okay, I'm going to let you figure that one out. We'll be doing a teaching on that one later too. But I just want you to look at that and see what we're talking about, because remember, he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. So if we did sacrifices back then, we did them here with the present time, but not now, and we have to do them in the future. Something tells me that there's a reason that we still have to do them. Okay, the only reason we can't do them now is because we don't have the altar. Ladies and gentlemen, an altar is being poured as I speak, because they've been working on the altar in Israel for last year, and they poured the cornerstones last year. I can't remember the exact date on it, but that was done. So all they need is an altar to start the sacrifices back up. So we're getting close.
So you mean in Exodus 20 where he says that these sacrifices are a statute forever, he actually meant it?
Yeah, he meant it forever. Statues forever. So,
thought that was done away with.
Yeah, no. It's only got done away with when the temple was destroyed, when the altar was taken out. When the altar got taken out, then they had to follow the statute. You can't do any sacrifices unless you have the altar in the land. Okay? Alright, it said that the Gentiles were not allowed to come to the temple. Whoa. Was not allowed to come to the temple. Let me give you a little story in the scriptures. Yeshua goes into the temple, and there's people in there selling stuff, and he goes in and he makes him a rope thing, and he goes in and starts clearing out the temple area there. Do you know what that temple area was called? The court of the Gentiles. It's where the Gentiles could come and worship YAHUWAH around the temple area. Okay? They couldn't do it because these merchants and everybody had come in there and set up their wares to sell. Why? There was nothing wrong for them to sell it because they were allowed to sell it, but you was allowed to bring your own stuff. But when the priest looked at it, just like today with today's business, because they wanted money, they said, no, this isn't good enough. You have to go there and buy from them. Of course, you know they're getting kickbacks off of it. So Yeshua goes in and he says, what? He said, you've taken my Father's house of prayer and turned it into a den of thieves. Okay? So, yes, the Gentiles did get to come. But because they weren't of the thing, they didn't get to go inside into the innermost places like the Jewish women did and the other people. So that blows that out of the water right there. Yes, Gentiles did get to come and worship. Okay. Ezekiel, what was Ezekiel 37? 2 houses, right?
Yep, 37, 16 through 17.
It says that there's only one place people that can be saved. Ezekiel 37, 16 through 17. You know what? I'm going to borrow this picture right here, brother. I think this pretty much says it the best. If you see this picture right here. This is pretty much what he told Ezekiel to do. Take 2 sticks, 2 branches, 2 Natzarim. Ooh, Natzarim. Write one's name on one, Judah. Write one's name on the other, Israel. Twist them together, bring them together. So this is what he's going to be doing in the end days. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know history, let me tell you a little bit of history. After Solomon's reign, there was a civil war in Israel. Israel was divided into 2 nations. The northern nation, you had 10 tribes of Israel. In the southern nation, you had 3 tribes of Israel. You had Judah, Benjamin, and the Levites in Judah. That's why, since Judah was the biggest tribe there, it was called Judah. Okay? Israel in the north consisted of the other 10 tribes. Okay? Isaiah is being told, and we can plainly see it, that Yeshua, or that Yahweh at this time, YAHUWAH, is going to put them back together. He's putting the brothers back together, all 10 tribes, all 12 tribes, excuse me. 13 going to come up under with Joseph. He's putting them back together. He makes it clear that you cannot mistake this, what he says. People won't think, oh, he's not doing that. He's just showing. The Brit Hadashah, okay, ladies and gentlemen, is not, some people call it the New Testament. It's not a New Testament. It's the renewing of the covenant of the ketubah that he made with both these people, with Judah and with Israel. The reason they were separated was because Israel followed after another husband. What does that mean in our language today? She was caught in adultery. So he divorced her. Now, according to Jewish law, to the Torah, okay, the only way that a bride can remarry is if her husband is killed, if he dies. Okay? Guess what Yeshua did? He died. He died to bring Israel back into the marriage covenant.
There's also another piece of symbolism here as well. We all know about the 3 pillars. Who's the middle pillar?
Yeshua.
Now, what encompasses this picture over here? We have 2 branches, 2 sticks. So we see the Natzarim right here in the middle. We have Ephraim and we have Judah. We have the 2 polar opposites of one another, the 2 extremes right there coming together through the Nazarene, Yeshua the Messiah.
Going to the root. So, that's, ladies and gentlemen, if anybody tells you there's only one people that can get saved, or one people that can go to get to thing, that's wrong, because right there Ezekiel blows that out of the water. So I think that pretty much takes care of the 2 houses. So be of good faith, be of good cheer, because you are a Nazarene, and don't let anybody say anything different. So we did find out who is this. So who is the Synagogue of Hasatan? It's not the Nazarenes. But, one thing I want to say before, also, we know who Hasatan is. He's an accuser of the brethren. Okay? So if you got somebody out there accusing the brethren, you need to look closely at them. Okay? I'm not sitting there pointing any fingers at anybody. I'm just telling you. It says Hasatan is the accuser of the brethren, and he does it day and night. So if somebody out there accusing the brethren, instead of going after the actual enemy, then you need to take a closer look at them and say, and make dirt and dust and get out of there. Okay? Because they're the ones that's causing the problems. Okay, so who is, I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, who is the Synagogue of Hasatan? Well, like I said once before, we found that it was the Edomites that infiltrated into the priesthood, and they started things, and today those Edomites are still there in Israel, but we also know them as, anybody that says they want the land and that Israel shouldn't get it, those are the Edomites. So, Chris, come on here, and one thing he was brought forth too, and before I want to get up there, was the Zohar is evil, the Talmud is evil. Ladies and gentlemen, we do not look at the Talmud and the Zohar as scriptures. Okay, they're not scriptures. What it is just like any kind of book that you read when you want to go back and do research on. You go back and you look at other people's things, their views on things were to see what it was back then. That is the only thing that the Talmud and the Zohar is used for. It's not used for actual scripture, but we want to go back and see something. Well, what was that they said back then? Because here's the thing that's killing me, Chris. People want to talk about going back to the old ways when they go back to the old ways. But when we do go back to old ways to see what these men seen, they want to holler and complain about it. Well, y'all following this and y'all following that.
You remember what me and Jehoshaphat were talking about? We went through 2 Corinthians chapter 2. What did Paul say about the things that are secret? He said to pursue after those things.
Pursue after secret things. Now, I'm going to show you something. I'm hoping this is going to show you a better way of understanding why we read things that we do read. Okay? Now, this is a Messianic, you read it, Messianic Passover banquet. Okay? Shows how to do the banquet. This one took place in Tennessee. That one took a couple years ago.
It's also known as a Haggadah.
The Haggadah. Okay? This is how they performed the Passover. Now, Chris, take this Bible here. Show me how to do the Haggadah.
Well, it doesn't tell you in here where to do or how to do it, but it does have a point where it tells you where to do it. Let's go and take a look at Luke chapter 22 here. Let's start at verse 8. Well, actually, let's just read verse 8. You know, verse 8, Yeshua sent Kepha and Yochanan to say to them, "Go prepare us a Pesach that we may eat." And they said, and in verse 9 they said to him, "Well, where do you want us to prepare it?" What does it say to prepare a Pesach meal?
Then you go ahead and stop because there's no place in there where it says to prepare the Pesach meal.
What?
But
How dare you?
But guess what? In the Talmud, one of the tractates that the rabbis wrote about was how to prepare. Actually, that's what this is. Tractate Pesachim. Can't pronounce it.
Let me see.
I am not good with Hebrew, so
Pesachim.
Pesachim. Okay, yeah, that word. Okay. This whole right here, this is part tells of different ones, versions on the how to set your table for Pesach.
And that's a great way to learn Hebrew too. I'll show you. This is how I've been kind of learning a little bit. Is because all these things over here, they're surrounded by the scripture, which is over here in the middle. On this side over here, you have the Mishnah, okay, which is basically you got the guy asking the question. Then over here on this side, you have the Gemara. Right over here on this side, and over here you can actually read the commentaries and all this stuff, and the words start to really jump out at you. It's a cool way to learn Hebrew. As Dael can tell you, I'm one of the very few people that actually. Have you ever seen a concordance in my home?
You do not have a concordance.
No.
But guess what? I do have concordance. Concordance is another one that was brought forth that said anybody that has a concordance that they don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, just because you have a concordance doesn't make. Once again, that's false teaching, and it's coming from whoever's doing it. That's coming from an accuser of the brethren. For a simple fact, I can take the King James version of the Bible and a concordance and prove everything in Hebrew is correct. Okay, I've done that before. I can take everything and make it line up the way it's supposed to line up with Scripture, to whereas people who take actual Scripture and twist it to their own pleasure because they want people to follow them. So if you have a concordance, use your concordance. But if they're use your King James Version, if you have a King James Version, use your King James Version. If you're using it in the way it's supposed to be done, then you're going to get the same answers if you go and ask any quote-unquote person, scripture person, okay? We have an excellent teacher where we go to Shabbat services at. He uses 16. Well, he doesn't use the 1611. He uses the 1769 version of the 1611, and he makes it clear. If I can show you it lines up in the 1611, then it lines up. Period. And he does an excellent job. He shows that and proves that. So, once again, they've taken the concordance and Talmud, they put it all in thing. And ladies and gentlemen, there may be people out there that's taking the concordance and using it as scripture. You know, that's on them. But I think you're smarter than that. Concordance, just like the Zohar, the Talmud, the scriptures, as long as you use them to reference things, then know that they are not scripture, but they are only references to help you understand scripture. There's nothing wrong with that, okay?
You mind if I give some proof on this real quick?
Yeah.
See, I'll tell you, I get the most hate mail from one of the programs that I do. And the hate mail that I get is not from those who are in the Hebrew roots. They are from Orthodox Jews, the anti-missionaries. And that's the weekly Talmud portions that I do. I have a list of some of the ones that I've done over here thus far. And I'm going to give you the citation. I want you to look these up for yourself. Don't take my word for it. I want you to look up, first of all, Berkos 53b. I'm not going to tell you what it says, but when you look at that, I want you to look at Matthew 6, 9 through 13.
And spell that for me.
Berachos 53b.
Now you can find this online. Just type that in when you go into your search engine. Type that in, and it'll take you to it.
Exactly. Now, here's some interesting stuff in Pesachim, P-E-S-A-C-H-I-M 2a and 2b. When you go and you look at this, you see that the thief in the night is the one who saves the person inside the home. Now, why would they use that analogy? Also, if you get a chance to look at McGillah, M-E-G-I-L-L-A-H 20b. Take a look at Yoma, Y-O-M-A 40a through 40b. Take a look at Makut, M-A-K-K-O-T-H 7a through 7b. And then look at 1 Peter, chapter 2, verses 4 through 10. Then look at Arakim 2b through 13a, which is A-R-A-C-H-I-N. Then we go back to Megillah once again, Megillah 3a. Then look at Daniel 9. This is all about the Messiah here. Sukkot 52a and Barakoth 2b. If you get a chance, I want you to take a look at both of those. Now, Dael made reference to the Zohar as well. Here's a very interesting thing from the Zohar. This is another thing that many of the rabbinics don't want you to see. So they make up all these things. Don't look at this, and all this stuff. Why? Because it's very obvious what is talked about in these rabbinical texts. Let me offer you this. Zohar 2, 115. Better is a neighbor that is near than a brother far off. The neighbor is the middle pillar of the Godhead, which is the Son of Yah. I did not add anything to that. I didn't take anything away from that. That's what it says, word for word, in Zohar 2, 115.
So, all these books are for is for gleaming. We're allowed to glean, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes you're going to be hungry for something and you're not going to get a full meal, but you're going to get fed by gleaming. Okay? And that's one of the things here. So, if, like I said, and the only way I know to actually, say for the people who's asked me about this whole thing, if somebody's telling you this stuff and we just proved that what was said was garbage, okay, what does the Word say? The Word says not to have nothing to do with them. Why do you not have nothing to do with them? For the simple fact, it makes them go back and look at their lives to see what they're doing wrong and to correct themselves on that. I'm not going to be here saying I'm going to sit here bashing somebody. I'm not going to bash anybody. I'm just getting to the truth and saying, hey, this is what it said. Go ahead and read that.
Okay. Romans 16:17. Now I entreat you, my brothers, that you beware of those who cause divisions and scandals outside the teachings which you have learned, and that you keep away from them. Romans 16:17.
So there you have verification on that. So, you know, like I said, I'm not out being an accuser of the brethren. I just have brethren and sisters to ask questions because this was what was being taught on something and they didn't understand it. I'm not here, you know, and Chris will be the first one to tell you I've never bashed anybody, and I've always been against it, you know. For the simple fact, we have to love one another. If we don't love one another, then there's no love in us. That's scripture. And my thing is, for whoever's teaching this, if being law enforcement, when I had to go to a judge, in front of a judge to take a case to when somebody was arrested or something other, I've always took all my evidence, and I can sit here and say to this day, I've never lost a case. Because when I go in, I have all the evidence with me before I say something. Now, I may get it wrong reading it or something like that, and that sometimes will happen, and I'll be the first to admit that. But I'm not going to sit here and intentionally say something that's wrong. Okay? And that's why I tell people, now, if I'm wrong, you tell me. I'm not above a reproach. I'm not above correction. Chris is the same way. So if you got a problem with this video, with me, if it was something I said on it that you think that I'm wrong on, Shofar YAHUWAH, SHOFARYESHUA.com. Go to the submit area there and submit your thing to me and tell me I'm wrong. I'll look it up and I will see. But as far as the evidence that I have on the thing, there it is. Okay? So don't let nobody ever tell you. Okay? If there's anybody that's saying anything against the brethren, then that should tell you, that should be the first signal to go off in your head saying, that's what Satan does. He's the accuser of the brethren. We need to stay away from him. That's all I'm going to say. You got anything to add to that?
Waka waka waka.
Waka waka waka. So, this coming Thursday, I don't know what the date is this Thursday.
It'll be August.
August is all the whole time.
August the 9th.
August the 9th, this coming Thursday, we're going to be doing on NazareneMedia.net, NazareneSpace.com. We're going to be doing this very thing right here as the witness to this video. Don't make me kill you, son. We're doing this very thing because we're going to, everything has to have a witness. And we're going to have some people on the Midrash on the radio station Thursday night at 9 o'clock, right after 2 Witness Natzarim. And we're going to be talking about this, laying it out, and we're going to be getting some great insights from some different views, because we got not only myself, we got you, we got a Christian fellow that's going to be on with us from, what do you say? Don't make me smack you. We got a.
He's our probie.
Yeah, we got a new probie, so he's going to be with us. He's wanting to learn, so it's a good chance to learn. And we've got Yosef, who's a great insight.
I don't know if Yosef will be able to make it. I know last week he had work.
Hopefully Yosef will be there.
I know his real name's Jose, by the way. I'm having a hard time about that.
Oh, well, he must like it. That's why he goes to ball games all the time. I'm sing to him, Jose, can you see?
He's a celebrity.
He's a celebrity. So there you go. So, ladies and gentlemen, if Chris, unless you got anything you want to add to this,
not anything of any substance. No.
Yeah, I think your AED's starting to kick in there.
Talk about it.
So. For us, the special edition of the Hunt Blind on Is Nazarene the Synagogue of Hasatan? No, it is not. Okay, so once again, for myself, for my jokester friend over here, I'm gonna put a smile on his face here in a minute with some 5-knuckle ministry. Shalom, shalom.
Oh, let us all give glory. Let us now become your latter rain. Shema Oyasarel, Yahuwah Eloah, Yaim is his name.